Welcome back to another episode of the Pax What She Said podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Maggie Loney, joined as always by Perry Goldstein. And what a way to start the 2025 regular season for the Packers, winning 27-13 in their home opener against the division rival Detroit Lions, a team that they lost to twice last season.
Yeah.
Perry, feels really good to get the boogeyman off their backs.
Yeah, I felt like exercising some demons today. Saying, yeah, remember us? We're actually pretty good. Just like an all around, like really great statement win. Packers look dominant from start to finish on both sides of the ball. As we like to say, very complimentary football today. So I'm just really happy with like the note that we're starting this season on. The tone setting of this game, I think, was really important, especially going into a short week against another very good NFC team. So like feeling like, I don't know, didn't you feel like the energy was different?
Yeah, it felt a lot more like the Packers wanted to punch you in the mouth from go.
Yeah.
And I hate being that kind of person who's like, "Oh, the energy," how Matt LaFleur's like, "Wake up with your piss hot." Like, I don't think that was a problem today. It didn't feel like one of those games where it was like, "Okay, we're waiting for things to get rolling and them to get hot." It from jump that happened, and I was really excited that they actually showed Micah Parsons running out of the tunnel on the broadcast. I thought that was a nice touch. Jordan Love alluded to it. Micah Parsons said, "We love a prophet," and then he got to run out of the tunnel week one, and I think that just kind of set the tone for the entirety of the game that the defense was gonna, pull out all the stops, and they really did, figuratively and literally.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I would say we can count the touchdown at the end, but it was very much a garbage time touchdown. In my mind, the Packers defense didn't let the Lions score a touchdown all game in like any meaningful way. They kept them to 2 field goals. I don't know. I mean, if you had told me before this game that's what would happen, I'd be like, you're joking. I just can't even imagine stifling the Lions offense in that way, and they really did. And it started with the run. I mean, they couldn't get anything going on the ground at all. The front was just absolutely dominant in this game, from a run game standpoint and from a pass rush standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, 46 total rushing yards for the Lions, and that was it. That's something we talked about. We were worried potentially about the secondary without Nate Hobbs there. We talked about it in the preview show. You've got St. Brown, you've got Jamison Williams, you've got Sam Laporta. Like, these are 3 huge weapons for
Yeah.
the Lions, and they put up 200 flat passing yards, 246 total yards. And if we had shared those stats and said, like, this is the stats of the team that lost, you'd be like, yeah, of course. Like, those are the exact numbers that you would want to see from your defense. And I think that's what was so telling about this one, is that we said, it could go either way. It's going to be really close, probably like a field goal. Like, we just want to see things to build on, things to
Right.
improve upon. There's not much, and I don't want to, come out of this too hot. It's week one. We always say, like, take it with a grain of salt, but
Right.
I didn't have a checklist, right? Of like, oh, got to work on this. Penalties cleaned up,
Right.
drops cleaned up. It just felt like they were checking the boxes that they needed to check.
Yeah, clean game. I mean, I think if they play like this for the remainder of the season, they're going to be very hard to beat. Like, this was, picture perfect, if you will, like tape. Of course, Jordan got saved a little bit on a bonehead play, on some penalties, but also maybe the penalties also impacted, his ability to throw. There was like maybe one bad drop by Jaden Reed, but the Packers won the turnover battle and they won the sack battle, right? Jordan Love was not sacked once. They got to Jared Goff 4 times. They ended up coming up with a turnover, kind of capitalized on it with a field goal. That's fine. Stop them on 4th downs. Like, just really all around. It was just an all around like good win. I mean, solid good win. There was at no point in which you thought, oh, the Packers are letting them back in. Uh-oh. Like, just completely dominant from start to finish.
Yeah, and like, guys finishing is, I think, something else that we were looking for, is capitalizing. Like you said, Anzalone had the opportunity there from Jordan Love, didn't capitalize. Evan Williams capitalizes, right? Like, those are things that swing games, and those are opportunities that, if he catches that ball, it could be a completely different outcome. So grateful, thankful, obviously, as Packers fans that that wasn't the case, but just a lot to really like. The Lions had 10 more minutes of possession in this game, and it didn't matter, and I think that was really telling. But I do think that we need to take a couple minutes here and talk about Micah Parsons. I think he needs his own section of the show because his first sack as a Green Bay Packer almost made me cry.
Yeah.
It happened, and I was just like, "Oh, here we go." Like,
Yeah.
it was just everything that all of my hopes and dreams for what he could bring to the team in that moment. The chase down from behind, it's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, relentless pursuit. I tweeted this, but I believe it like wholeheartedly. Like he is an apex predator. There
Yeah.
is no one on the food chain of a football game or a football team that is above him. I could not imagine being chased down by that man. That is terrifying. And I think more than just the sack, I mean, he was impacting the game whenever he was on the field. He played limited snaps. He came in, I think it looked pretty consistently to be on third downs. And then eventually they started mixing him in on earlier downs when it was a favorable matchup. But for someone who played limited snaps. You expect him to play more as the season goes on. He was just pressuring Jared Goff all day long. I mean, him being in there is why Rashawn could get a sack, why LVN could get a sack. To your point before, it's the whole reason why Evan Williams was able to kind of read that route and jump in and get an interception. Like he was an absolutely impactful player, even when he wasn't, finishing the quarterback to the ground.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because I was gonna bring that up, right? It's week 1, and that was one of the criticisms of the Packers defense last season, right? Is the ability to finish and come away with sacks. And Rashawn Gary took a lot of double teams last season, and he didn't really feel like, I mean, he wouldn't have never said this, but we didn't feel like there was adequate help on the other side of
Right.
the line for him. Well, look what happens, right? Who do you guard? Okay, well, you have to protect against Micah Parsons, Lucas Van Ness, sack, Rashawn Gary, sack,
Mm-hmm.
Micah Parsons, sack. Like it couldn't have gone better for that front. We saw Edge Cooper bringing pressure. Like they were getting relentless pressure from every angle, and that was one of the keys to the game, right? As we said, if Jared Goff has time to find his receivers,
Mm,
it could be a long game.
right.
He was so uncomfortable from go,
Yeah.
and that was, I think, that's why they could never catch up
Yeah.
because he never had time to set his feet and to find his receivers. There were opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the corners are playing like blanketed coverage all game, but he just couldn't get anything done, and it's because of that incredible pressure by that front.
Yeah, and the expectation of the pressure made it like so he was uncomfortable even when he had time.
Mhm.
It's just like he just felt it all the time. Now I'm glad you brought up like the opportunities and the cornerbacks because the Lions did have some big plays. They did have some big chunk plays. The Packers were able to make stops when they needed to in key moments on key third downs and kept the Lions to field goals. But I mean, the Amon Ra v. Keyshawn Nixon battle, this game, like Amon Ra won a few times. I know he's like an amazing running back, or sorry, my God, tired, wide receiver. But that battle, I mean, it didn't, I don't know. We knew the corners were going to be the weak link, and I think again this front is covering up a lot, but there were some holes that the Lions certainly found in the coverage.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we talked about too, like the edge unit you feel much better about. And I'm sure we'll feel differently when Nate Hobbs is out on the field.
Yeah,
I thought that they played well enough, obviously, but it is helpful when you have Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams on the back end. Like they are able to make up for what is the glaring deficiency currently of this defense, and
totally.
it's the boundary, either boundary. So I think that that is probably the one area on your defense where you're like, okay, schematically, we probably need to game plan a little bit better. But at the same time, every week you're not playing two elite wide receivers, right? So I
Yeah,
think
for
that
sure.
is a piece of it as well. And of course, Terry McLaurin comes into Lambeau Field in just a couple days here, so that is a piece. But
Yeah. I mean, Terry did not have a big day today
mm-mm.
against the Giants. So I think it's certainly possible. It is not an impossible task for this cornerback room. It's just a matter of sticking with your assignment and executing appropriately. I want to switch gears, if that's okay, and talk about Jordan,
Okay.
because I thought he looked fantastic in this game.
Mhm.
Really surgical, especially in the first half. I mean, throwing the ball, hit how many? 10 different pass catchers. Just looked extremely comfortable in the pocket. The offensive line gave him all kinds of time. Even when, like I think Josh was struggling a little bit to get things going on the ground to start the game, but you stick with it. And of course, he ended up getting, finishing the day fine, 19 for 66. But just healthy Jordan looks like a world of a difference from last season.
And not having to be Superman, which
Yeah,
I think makes a ton of difference too. We've talked about in the past, the Packers quarterbacks having to make something out of nothing. 16 of 22, 188 yards, two touchdowns, 128.6 passer rating. And kind of, I guess, tying into the Jordan conversation, I just wish Romeo Dobbs could get a little more credit from Packers fans. I don't know what his contract situation looks like next season, if the Packers would consider bringing him back, but I think that he is so underrated as a piece of this Packers offense. It seems like fans are always willing to just ship him off as trade bait around the league, but I feel like he's such a difference maker. You've got Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden as really flashy, explosive players, but
yeah,
Romeo Dobbs is just so reliable. It seems like he's always there on third down for Jordan. He's who Jordan is comfortable with. 2 catches, 68 yards. Like, he's not going to be your 1,000-yard receiver, but
no,
he is about as reliable a piece. He's like James Jones, right? Like,
yes.
if he's your wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, you would take that 10 out of 10 weekends.
The James Jones comparison is so good, actually. I can't think of it because, like, again, he's not flashy, but he's going to be there when you need him. I mean, it took 2 plays to score a touchdown, right? And it was the big one to Romeo Dobbs. It was the 49-yarder to Romeo Dobbs. Jordan knows he can go deep. Romeo is going to go up, catch the ball, and then Jaden Reed finishes it off with the touchdown. And it's exactly what you look for in those 2 guys.
Yeah, and I just keeping the conversation to the wide receivers, was very pleasantly surprised to see Savion Williams
Yeah,
on special teams. That was a bright spot. I genuinely didn't think that he was going to play. I thought maybe we'd see like a McCole Hardman elevation just because we weren't sure what that injury was going to look like. Um, but that should have been, kind of the tell that we needed when the elevations came out, and it was Micah Robinson and not a wide receiver that all 3 of the guys were going to go. But I thought that he looked great on special teams and made some really nice plays when he had the ball in his hands.
yeah, absolutely. The pass catchers, I'm feeling very much more confident in after
Mhm.
this game. I mean, this is a tough defense to go up against.
Very good secondary.
Very, very good secondary. I thought Dontavian Wicks came down with some, 2 key catches.
Mhm.
Look, after last season, you're like, is he going to drop it? And it looked really solid. Obviously, Tucker Kraft is everyone's favorite psycho, and catches that gorgeous touchdown pass to like really start the game off. Matthew Golden with his first 2 catches as a Packers wide receiver, also in key moments. Let's talk about third down.
Okay.
The Packers, let me look at the
They
stats.
were 4 for 10, I think.
That's worse than I thought. 5 for 15
Oh, I must have flipped
on
them.
third down and 3 for 4 on fourth down efficiency. So, I mean, at the start of the game, it felt like they were converting every single third down. Obviously, eventually the Lions got a few stops, but I just thought that they did a really good job of keeping the chains moving throughout the game. That stat makes it sound a little bit worse, but I think while I was watching, it looked better. I mean, they had 16 first downs, contrary to the Lions 14, and the Lions were 4 for 10 on third down. But really aggressive by Matt LaFleur to go for it on fourth down as often as he did. Very, very Dan Campbell-like of him.
Yeah, you could tell that this was one that they knew. And I think it was kind of the detriment that we saw last season, right? Was the really conservative nature um to not always go for it.
Yeah.
And this is a Matt LaFleur that came out swinging, and obviously the Packers put up 27. I think we said like 27-24. So not a 40 burger, which would have been fun, but a very dominant performance by this Packers team, and one that honestly from the beginning did not feel like it was in jeopardy. It kind of reminded me of the Thanksgiving game where they just came out and punched first. And even though the Lions, were able to put some drives together to score some points and keep themselves in it enough, they had opportunities, right? If they convert that onside kick, it's a little scary for a couple seconds because you're like, oh shoot. But there was 55 seconds left in the game when they got their touchdown. So definitely a dominant performance from the Packers. And again, getting the boogeyman off of their backs because
Mhm.
they went 1-7 in the division last season.
Yeah.
Or sorry, math.
One in
1-5 in the
seven.
division last season. We're so tired. We shouldn't.
1 in 5, but they've already gotten their 1,
Right.
so there we go. I
Uphill from here.
yeah, upward from
Up
here for sure.
upwards. Downhill from here. Goodness, it's late.
Um, I'm like at a loss for all the things. Let's talk about a few things that are coming out of this game now.
Okay.
I think there's a few injuries that on a short week I'm a little concerned about. Right, Zach Tom had his like hip nicked in that interception that didn't happen. He came out of the medical tent but was on the bike and then never came back into the game. I'm assuming he didn't come back into the game because they were up by so much and there was no point. They put Anthony Belton in at at right tackle. Aaron Banks did something to his ankle. I honestly haven't seen a lot of information about it. I'm sure we'll get more, but we did see Jordan Morgan on rotation, and so he slotted in and kind of like took it from there. I guess like good to know that the backups can slot in and
Mhm.
nothing changes. Don't love the injuries this early to 2 starting offensive linemen.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the takeaway, right? And that's one of the things that we talked about with Andy Herman as early as week 1 of the preseason was you feel really good about your first 7 offensive linemen. And there's a lot of teams that don't feel good about all 5 of their starting linemen. So the fact that in a pinch, you can have guys that you drafted for this reason, right? You invested a first round pick and a second round pick in these 2 guys to come in and play. That matters. And again, no drop off, no sacks. It's not like all of a sudden the pressure was hitting. And it's not
Right.
like, Anthony Belton was lining up against like preseason players, right? Like there's Aiden Hutchinson on the other
Right.
side of the line. And these guys did a really good job. So I agree with you that it's a little bit of a concern on a short week, but I think kind of the blessing in disguise on some of these, short weeks is if they're able to play or get through it banged up, then you've got like a little bit longer of a recovery time. And then
Right.
after Cleveland, you've got a Sunday night game. So like that the really early bye, but there's opportunities I think for them to get some rest. And I'm not sure, like you said, if at that point the Packers are like, well, this game's, in our hands. Let's just let these guys get some rest and, hit the ice bath a little early.
Yeah.
Or if they would have come in if the game was close.
Yeah, I am curious about that. Obviously, we'll never know because it wasn't close. But just I mean, I think like 1A on my list of things to be watching for this week for sure. Anything that happened this game that we haven't touched on that you're like, I have to talk about this?
I think just really pleased with the overall makeup of the team is my takeaway. And we have talked about it already, but like all the key players made key plays in big moments when they needed to. We talked about Jaden Reed's touchdown. We talked about Romeo Dobbs. We talked about Jordan Love looking really comfortable, the offensive line not allowing a sack, defensive side of the ball, all of your edge rushers, walking away with a sack. Evan Williams getting the first pick for the defense. I thought Edge Cooper had a really explosive game, just kind of was everywhere doing everything for everyone.
Oh yeah.
And it's everything that we wanted to see and it was clean. I think that's my biggest takeaway is it wasn't they got bailed out by a ton of penalties and it was like 12 accepted penalties and 100 something yards. Like we've seen this Packers team open the season and you're like, "Oh my gosh, there was like 100 penalty yards." No, that was not an issue for this team. I think they had like 40 yards in penalties and just a very clean, productive football game
Yeah.
and the receivers caught the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, now that you say that, it was actually just like a very flagless game. Like
Mhm.
there were a few penalties here and there, but for the most part, like the refs at least like just let them play. Hate that taunting penalty,
That
but
was silly. But
so stupid. But my other takeaway, I echo everything you said, is like I was really impressed by the interior of the defensive line.
Mhm.
I think it's fair to ask the question like, what do they look like without Kenny Clark? Because this team hasn't known an interior defensive line without Kenny Clark for 8, 9 seasons. But I thought Devonte Wyatt and Colby Wooden, especially, like really stepped up, and they really took care of business. Forgot to mention, like Devonte Wyatt also got a sack,
Mhm.
and Colby Wooden looked great as well. So just really rounding out what is looking to be like a very formidable front seven, and kind of handling things up the middle because they're a huge reason why the Lions couldn't get anything going on the ground, and made them one dimensional.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to wrap up is, poor Kenny Clark. Um, but just we do miss him, seeing him in green and gold. It was weird on Thursday night, right? I'll say it. It was weird to see him in blue. Um, but yeah, it certainly was the concern. And I know that was like kind of the running joke with the Micah Parsons trade was, well, he's not gonna, stop the run, so you're still gonna have to worry about that. Well, this defense gave up 46 rushing yards. And I know, again, right, when you're playing from behind, you're not running the ball a ton because you're trying to save clock and all of those components.
Right.
But when the Lions did run the ball, it's not like they were gashing like 12-yard chunks, like 7 yards. Like these weren't third manageable situations a lot of the time. Like the Packers pinned their ears back and they got after this entire front. And for the Lions having two really good tackles, it was a very dominant performance in just about every facet
Yeah.
for the Packers. And yeah, I'm glad you gave those guys credit. Colby Wooden, coming in and I think playing a much bigger role than he was anticipated to, put on weight this offseason and
Mhm.
really was announced with the starters, like came in immediately
Yeah.
as, their nose tackle and looked really good doing it. So
Yeah, he
it's
did.
1 week. It's 1 week, but what a way to start the season. If it had been the reverse outcome, we would have said, like, oh, there's, a lot to build off of, really good football, really good promise, like lots of good takeaways. But the fact that they came out of this with such a dominant win, it's really
Mhm.
hard not to be excited
Yeah.
about what this season looks like.
Yeah. Like I said at the top, like very tone setting.
Mhm.
Just very, very tone setting for the season. I love the energy from this team. It really feels like like they showed up. I think we've had a few week ones where Packers teams, you're like, are you still in preseason or are you with us here in the regular
Mhm.
season? And today it was we are here to win. So love to see it. Quick turnaround for next game, which is I'm really excited for. I'm having my whole
Mhm.
family over to watch because half my family are Commanders fans. So it's going to be a lively night on Thursday in my household. But I think it's just going to be a really good game and another litmus test. Like we called this in our preview show, like a good kind of barometer
Mhm.
for where the Packers are at. And I think week 2 is going to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to wrap it up. Winter warning at Lambeau Field if you'll be there. I know they're encouraging everybody to wear white. They even have white cheese heads now. Very exciting. The white
Oh,
cheddar, if you will. So grab yours. I was very tempted to buy one just because I think that they look really cool. So if you're a cheesehead person and you're going to be at the game, consider a white cheesehead. Not sponsored, just love us a good cheesehead.
yeah.
Um, Packers handling business against the Detroit Lions 27-13. Thank you as always for joining us. We'll be back to preview week 2 because it is coming up in 4 days. Very quickly. You won't have to wait too long to see how the Packers build off of this win at Lambeau Field, hosting the Commanders, like Perry said. Perry hosting her family. We will have a really good game. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe if you don't already, obviously, at Pax What She Said, at PWSS Podcast on other socials, and Perry at Perry_Goldstein, me at Maggie J. Loney, and we'll be back to talk about hopefully another winning preview. Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.